Hello guys, welcome back to my channel Automation Hub Sarthak, and today's video we will learn about how to read data from an Excel sheet with the help of @data provider and use that data in execution of our test cases. I've already put up a video on the same in my Hindi series, but anyways, you know that I'll have to put it up in English. So here it comes. And before I go ahead with it, all you have to do is in your pom.xml file, you have to add these dependencies: poi minus minus oxml, poi, this poi oxml. I've already done that, so okay, I've pasted twice. So you have to add these dependencies. I'll slow down. Poi xml, poi, you can add commons minus io, fluent minus hc, poi minus scratchpad, and openxml4j. I hope you guys know how to add the dependencies in Maven project. You just have to go to mvnrepository.com and here, let's say whichever dependency, let's say poi oxml. So just click here, click here. I'm using 4.1.1 as you can see, but the latest version is 5.2.3. You can just go copy this, come back to your pom.xml file, and you can put it here. So whenever you want to use that, you can just come and adjust anywhere you want to adjust. So this should work absolutely fine. So there is poi oxml schemas. Maybe by mistake I deleted it. Oh yes, I deleted it. This one is also required. I'm sorry. So these are the ones which you need: poi minus oxml, poi oxml schemas, commons io, fluent hc, poi minus scratchpad, openxml4j. So you can use these from mvnrepository.com. Just copy the latest versions and come and paste it here. I'm using little old versions, but that's fine. It works anyways, doesn't matter. If you want, you can change to the latest versions if that makes you happy. Go ahead and do it. So yes, this thing looks fine, no problem. I'll go back to my code. So now let's go ahead and do the designing part. That thing is done. So my Excel sheet is also ready. So here I have created a sheet known as login, and I have created a username and password column. And these are the 5 usernames and their respective passwords for Rediff login. And I think people, those who watch my channel, they know about these email IDs, not the new ones, but the old ones, they know. Now, there is another sheet I have created, which is login TN. This is for Tutorials Ninja. I have used approximately 11 usernames and their respective passwords. And again, I have created username password as the username and password as the columns too. So let me close this Excel sheet. There are a few things that you need to do. First, you create the package. So this one was for my Hindi video. This one is for this one is the package which I'm creating for my English YouTube video. So what you need to do is first copy this Excel sheet, come here and paste it. One thing is done. Please remember, in case you update certain data in your local, let's say for example you want to update a certain thing, let's say you change the password from winter 2021 question mark to winter 2021 hash. You save it here, you change it here, you save it, and then you execute the same code with the same data, same Excel sheet data. It will not reflect because this path where you have copied is at a different place, and where you copied that from, that is at a different place. So technically many people do this mistake of going and changing the data in the local and then thinking that it will work inside the project location. No, if you are updating it, delete this one from here, copy the updated Excel sheet from wherever your local is, copy it and bring it back and paste it here. Again, it is up to you. Now I have told you how to be careful. Now let me go and create a class. So now I'll create a class known as Excel code. Nothing much, a simple Excel code. There are a few steps that you have to be very, very careful about. I've already told you. You have to create an Excel sheet which will have the data. You will see technically what happens in real-time projects. The client will give you a lot of data. So you will have to use that data. As of now, in a YouTube video, I'm just showing username password. One column with 10, 11 rows. With two columns each. But in real-time projects, there will be like hundreds of rows and hundreds of columns. Sometimes even opening an Excel sheet, if your system is weak with less of RAM, it might also hang. So client gives you that much amount of data which you can automate. Anyways, we'll just go ahead with the learning process. So now you know that I have copy pasted the Excel code and this one is also done. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an object, public static void read data from Excel, and I'm going to pass the sheet name as a parameter, string parameter. That's it, simple, no big deal. Now there are certain steps that I need to follow. The first step is create the object of file input stream class. Create the object of file input stream and pass the path of Excel here in the constructor of this. So I'll create, see, you can also create file equal to new file and pass the path and then use the file reference in file input stream. It is up to you, but I'm going to directly create it like this. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to create it like this. Okay, I'm going to pass the string here. So this is the Excel data. I'll go properties. So this is the whole path that you need to copy, but remember up to here, this is, we can use system.getProperty user.dir. I hope you know how to do this. And then from here to here is the path actually, which will be unique. I'll copy this and first I'll paste it here. And this one will be concatenated with the system.getProperty. So I'll write it before it, system.getProperty user.dir. Save this, Control Shift O. So file input stream will be imported using java.io, and this one will, you can surround it with try catch block. I'll just give a throws declaration. So that's fine with me. Okay. So now what is the second step? This is step number 1. Now the second step that I need to do is I have to create the second step, create the object of XSF workbook. So you know these days the Excel sheet extension is .xlsx. Before 2010, mostly we were using .xls extension. So when we were using .xls extension, then we were creating the object of HSSF workbook. But now since we are using .xlsx extension, so we are using XSF workbook. So you have to create the object of XSF workbook. So go ahead, XSF, sorry. XSF workbook equal to new XSF, sorry, workbook, and you pass the file input stream reference over here and you import it. And then again you have to surround this by, you can use try catch block, or I see in real-time project use try catch block. In YouTube videos I'm using throws declaration, so it doesn't matter. But in real-time project, please use try catch block. And now what next? Now I have to use this workbook to get my sheet. So get sheet will get me, it returns me XSSF sheet, and I have to pass the string name, sheet name, which is already passed in the string. But this get sheet method will return me the object of XSSF sheet. So I'll use something like this, Control Shift O. My package will be imported. So get sheet method returns you the object of XSF sheet. This is as simple as that. Okay. Now, once you get this, now our next job is to get the number of rows and columns. Okay. So I will use the sheet dot get last row number. This will give me the total number of rows. But remember, the get last row number will return me the get last row number. It will return me something of an integer type. Yes. So I can store it in integer value. int rows equal to something like this, and then I can store the columns exactly like that. Sheet dot get row, because each row will be associated with a column. I'll start with the 0th index because I can start with anything, but anyways indexing starts with 0. So for that particular row, I'll go to the last cell number. Cell is nothing but the column. So this is how I can determine my number of rows and columns. Now, the next step is, what am I using? I'm using data provider. So you can see I'm using data provider to read the data from Excel sheet. Now, so what is the first point uh, of understanding data provider? It returns a two-dimensional object array. So let me go ahead and create a two-dimensional object array first. And here I'll pass the number of rows and columns which I have already specified. So my life becomes much simpler. I don't have to specify 10 comma 2 or whatever. I don't want to do that. Now I need to iterate across each row and column. So first I iterate across the rows for int I equals to 0, I less than rows, I plus plus. Okay. And how will I get this? Sheet dot get row, and I'll pass the index. Now look at this. If you open the Excel sheet again, which is there in my downloads folder, see the first row is a header which I have passed a yellow color fill. It is username and password. Technically username is a header, password is a header which stores the data. But this line represents to this particular row, which anyways will not work. Okay, so because technically the data starts from row number 2, so all you have to do is use +1, nothing else, as simple as that. And this get row will return you XSSF row. Can you see that? Yes. So use XSSF row class, and you can specify this, identify this reference as a typical ROW as the reference. Okay, now this is for the rows. Now for the columns, I'll use another for loop for int j equals to 0, j less than columns, j plus plus. And here again, so now I'll use, instead of sheet, I'll use row, because each row has multiple columns. So row will only help me get this cell type. So I can get this cell. I'll write J here because J represents my rows. Now this get cell will return me the class of XSF cell equals to this, Control Shift O. So yes, now I have iterated across all these things. So my code looks good. Now my situation is, I do not know what kind of data I am passing in my Excel sheet. As of now, this whole thing looks string, but you never know. There could be Boolean expression, there could be strings, there could be characters. Even if you type something in as an integer value in Excel sheet, it by default turns into a decimal value. So you have to somehow convert everything into whatever you want to make it, want to read your code as. So for that, let me give certain assertiveness to my code, and for that I'll use simple switch statement. I hope you guys know how to use switch statement. But first and foremost, I'm going to use, because I need to know what each column holds. So I will go here, use my cell reference, and as of now I want everything in. I want to know my cell type, which is my column type. So I'll call this method, and this method should return me cell type class. And please import using POI. This one, don't use Microsoft schemas. Okay, now I'm going to use switch statement to iterate across each and every column and identify what kind of data type each and every cell block is holding up. So I'll write switch cell type and then the body of the switch statement. And I'll take my first case, which is string, which is what I'm mostly doing. So here, the first statement I have data I and j, because that is a two-dimensional array. I'm using cell dot get string cell value. So this is very simple. This is very direct. I'll break it. Now, let's say I'm gonna consider numeric or integer, whatever you want to give. And I'll use again data I and j. And here I'll use cell dot get numeric cell value. But this one, you see, it returns double. So the problem is every Excel sheet, even if you store one, let's say for example you store 10, it will store as 10.00. So technically an integer is converted by default into double. So even if I use like this, it will not help me. So I will try to convert this double value to string. But let me first convert this into an integer and then I'll use something. So first I have to cast it. Okay, I'll convert this integer. Okay, and okay, and now I have to use a wrapper class to convert into a string. I hope you guys know what a wrapper class is. So, okay, I'll have to wrap here. Yes. So now, whatever, whether it's an integer, double, by default it will store in string. So I've done in one go, less headache. So now I'll use, in case there is a Boolean value. Boolean value is very easy. You directly use the method get Boolean cell value. So that is very easy. So it's like string. It's very easy. Yeah, simple do that. This is good. You don't need much. Now, what does the object array does for data provider? It returns it. Have we returned it yet? No. Now we are going to return it. So we'll return the object array. So now we have returned it. So now this object array okay, so is something wrong here? Yes. Okay, because it said void array cannot return a two-dimensional object, so I converted my return type void to two-dimensional object. Simple. You know all these things I have taught very specifically in @data provider. Please go and watch those videos if you haven't, otherwise you'll get confused. So I've returned the object, I've returned the array, and once I return the array, the return type also has to change. It could not be void anymore. Okay, now these things are done. Now what next? Now you have to write your test cases. So let me write a new class. Let's say test cases. So in test cases, I will use, first let me write for the Rediff login. So here, public WebDriver driver @test priority equal to 1, public void Rediff login test. Okay, I'll just write driver equal to new Chrome driver. We have done this zillion times, so you guys must have proper knowledge on this. People, those who watch my channel, .window .maximize, then driver .get. I'll directly get the URL. I'll close this. I'll go to Rediff. I'll get the login URL. This is the login URL. I'll copy, come here, paste it. Okay. Now, so driver dot find element. I have already remembered the ID attributes and the password attributes, all the IDs. So you go ahead and do that. I'm just gonna pass the values because I remember everything. So sorry, Control Z. Selenium Panda at rediffmail.com, and I'll copy this. I'll again copy, but I'll change. This one will be password, and this one will be selenium at the rate 123. And this one will be a class, and this one will be signinbtn followed by dot click, because that is a button that we are clicking. So it is as simple as that. I'll use driver dot quit. So now I have written my test case, I have written my Excel code, but have I written my @data provider? No, not yet. So now what I need to do? I need to write my @data provider for my Rediff login. That is what I have to do. So I'll go ahead, @data provider. Let me give a name. So the name is Rediff, for example. So here I will obviously public static void get Rediff Excel data. Okay. So I'll import why is it throwing me an error? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, now how will I call the array? That is also important, right? Now this data provider returns a two-dimensional object array. That is something which we know. So how do I call this particular? Let me create an object array and let the be this, and this time I'll use the class and call the respective method, and here I'll pass login as the sheet name because that is what my sheet name is, login. So literally I've used the class name to call this particular method. Okay, now I'll return, I'll not, one second guys, I'll not write so much. I'll simply write data, doesn't matter, it's fine. There is an error. What is the error? Let me close it. Sometimes this thing behaves weird. Why is this throwing me an error? Oh, I forgot, sorry. So let me return the data. So once I return the data, obviously this one will have a problem. The return type will also be this. Now this one will ask you to surround it by try catch block. As of now, I'm putting it in throws, but you better do it in try catch block. So now this thing is ready. Now I have to connect this particular data provider with this test case, which is in a different class. So first and foremost, I'll have to pass the data provider annotation, which will be equal to Rediff as per the name of the data provider. And then I have to provide another annotation, data provider class equal to name of the class which holds the code dot class dot clss. Okay, that thing is done. Next step, we have to parameterize the method. This is done. So literally we don't need this much, and we don't need this one either. So now the test case is ready. Okay, We have the Excel code, we have the data provider, we have connected the code with the data provider. Now let me just do one dry run and see if everything is fine or not. See, I don't trust Rediff will work absolutely fine. There might be fail, but that's okay. Okay, I think this one is the last one, I guess. Yep. Thankfully, all 5 of them passed. So it is working good. Now, let's say, for example, I want to write another test case. So I'll simply just copy this, Control C. I'll come here, paste it. But here, instead of Rediff, I will write tutorials ninja. I'll write TN login test. And then instead of, I haven't passed the data provider and annotation yet, and obviously these things will change, and obviously this one will also change. So first the username will be http tutorialsninja.com/demo. This will be the URL, and if I remember correctly, first you have to click on my account, Control C. So here these will be link text. So this one will be my account, and again this one will also be a link text, and this one will be login. So these are the two things that you have to take care of. How I remember these things? So go to tutorialsninja.com. What you have to do, you have to enter this particular URL, click on my account, then click on login, then you have to enter this username, then you have to enter this username, which is email address, then you have to enter the password, then you have to click on the login button. So I have almost remembered everything. So you can go ahead, and this one ID, I think it is input minus email, and this one is password, which is input minus password, and this one can be used as by.css selector, and here it will be input.btn.btn minus primary.click. So I think this one will be sufficed. The only thing that I need to do is I have to create another method which will read for this the data from the Excel for this particular sheet, which is login TN. This data should be read. So all I have to do is I'll copy the same method, copy it and paste it and change certain values in there. First and foremost, get Rediff read data. I can write read data TN, and that's it. I don't have to do anything else. Rest of all the code remains the same. I only change TN, and this one I'll give read data Rediff, something like that, and whatever I've called. And simple. Now I have to create another data provider for Tutorials Ninja. So here I'll write simply TN, and then I will call this one get. I'll call the name of the method, which is read data TN from Excel. Control C. So here I'll write get TN Excel data, and I'll change this. Simple. And this one will not be login because the sheet name is login TN. Login TN. That's it. Rest of the things remain the same. All I have to do is copy this TN in my data provider annotation. nothing changes, everything remains the same. So I've just copied the same method and I've created another data provider. Just change the name of the data provider. Also change the name of the method. Here I wrote get Rediff Excel data, here get TN Excel data. And of course the name of the method which I changed for to read the Excel sheet, I've changed the name to name of the method, and then I've also passed the name of the sheet which needs to be passed as per the code which we have created. All arrangements done. I'll go to test cases. All these things have been checked. This one will become, I'll make this one priority 1 and this one I'll make it to priority 2. So rest of all good, all good. These ones have been taken care of. All these have been taken care of. Right click, run as test ng test. So it is still running. And after this, Rediff will also go on. But thankfully, my code is working. So far, we haven't received any sort of an exception. Test case, I guess. So this one would be the last one, and then we'll see the results. So thankfully, all 16 of the test cases passed. You see, all these data which was there in the Excel sheet, both the sheets, they got passed. So code is absolutely perfect. You can, I will try to push this code in GitHub link, and then if you want, if people ask me for it, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'll not do it. So that's it, guys. I've already posted this video in my Hindi video, in my Hindi playlist. So this one will come up in the English playlist. Thank you so much for your continuous support. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you have any doubts, please feel free to ask me. I'll connect with you via Zoom or TeamViewer and see how I can help you with. Thank you so much. Sathik is signing off.